Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're navigating the really fascinating terrain of emotional intelligence, or EQ as it's often called. It's not just, knowing what you're feeling. It seems to be a much deeper understanding, right, of emotions in yourself and, well, in other people too.
Exactly. And our exploration today, it's drawing from quite a bit of research and practical findings. It's going to highlight why EQ isn't just some sort of nice to have skill.
Right.
In many ways, it's really the bedrock of success in our lives, often actually overshadowing even raw intellectual horsepower, IQ.
That's a big claim.
Mhm.
So our goal then in this deep dive is to cut through any maybe noise around the topic and get right to the heart of EQ.
Yeah.
What it is, why it carries such surprising weight, like that statistic you mentioned, how people with average IQs regularly outperform those with the highest IQs.
70% of the time, yeah.
Yeah.
It's striking.
Wow. Okay, so why it matters, and then crucially, how you, our listener, can get some tangible ways to maybe boost your own emotional intelligence without getting bogged down in, like, abstract theory.
Think of this as your direct route, maybe, to understanding the power of your emotions and how to harness them effectively.
Okay, let's unpack this then. What exactly is this thing we call emotional intelligence?
Well, at its core, emotional intelligence is the capacity to recognize and comprehend emotions, both your own and those of others.
Okay, recognize it.
But it definitely goes further than just identification. It's about leveraging this awareness, this emotional awareness to, well, guide your behavior and successfully navigate your relationships.
So it's kind of like having a built-in compass for social and emotional situations. Is that a fair way to put it?
That's a helpful way to think about it, yeah. And it's really vital to understand that EQ stands apart from intellect, IQ.
Yeah.
And also from personality.
Oh, interesting.
Our sources are quite clear on this. There's just no proven link between how high your IQ is and your level of emotional intelligence. You could be, I don't know, a genius scientist with surprisingly underdeveloped EQ.
That really flips the script on what we often assume about intelligence, doesn't it?
Really does. And IQ, it tends to be relatively stable throughout life, barring significant events like trauma.
Right, fixed, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
EQ, however, is a dynamic skill. It's flexible. You actually have the capacity to learn, grow, and refine it at any stage of life.
Okay.
Imagine learning a new language or maybe playing an instrument. The more you practice, the more fluent you become, right?
Sure.
Developing your EQ follows a similar pattern. You're strengthening neural pathways through practice.
That's actually really good news for all of us then.
Yeah.
So if my EQ isn't naturally, like, off the charts, there's still plenty of room to grow.
Absolutely. Loads of room. And this brings us back to that really striking finding from the source.
The 70% one.
Yeah, that people with average IQs outperform those with the highest IQs roughly 70% of the time.
Wow.
And conversely, those with the highest IQs, they only outperform average IQs about 20% of the time. This stark contrast, it really emphasizes that there's some critical element at play beyond just cognitive ability.
70%. That's
Yeah.
such a powerful statistic. So what are the fundamental building blocks of this something else, this EQ?
Well, emotional intelligence is generally understood as being built on 4 key interconnected skills.
Okay.
The first 2 are primarily focused inward. That's self-awareness and self-management.
Right. Knowing yourself, managing yourself.
Exactly. And the other 2 are more outward-facing, dealing with your interactions with others. That's social awareness and relationship management.
Okay, let's maybe dig into that first inner piece then. Self-awareness. What's most important for us to grasp here?
Self-awareness is really your ability to accurately perceive your own emotions in the moment as they happen. Yeah. And also to understand your general tendencies across different situations. It's about being attuned to your patterns, how you react to various triggers, could be events, challenges, certain people.
Yeah.
And a really fundamental aspect here is recognizing that all emotions, even the ones that feel uncomfortable, carry valuable information. So instead of just labeling a feeling as simply good or bad, try to understand what it's signaling to you. What's the message?
So rather than just trying to push away feelings I don't like, I should be asking, okay, what's this trying to tell me?
Precisely. Our sources really emphasize that a strong sense of self-awareness lays the groundwork, the foundation for all the other EQ skills.
Makes sense.
And in fact, research even links increased self-awareness to greater overall life satisfaction. which is quite something.
Definitely.
And it's not just about your internal state either. Your emotions have what's often called a ripple effect.
Ripple effect. How so?
Well, how you're feeling can significantly impact the mood and even the productivity of those around you.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Reflecting on your own behavior and maybe proactively seeking feedback from others can really illuminate this interconnectedness. Just imagine a team leader who comes into a meeting visibly stressed or anxious.
Yeah.
That anxiety can easily spread throughout the whole team, can't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to that. Being around someone who's clearly upset or stressed, it really affects your own emotional state.
Exactly. And it's also important to tune into the physical sensations that often accompany your emotions.
The physical side.
Yeah. You know, those electrical signals in the brain, they trigger a whole cascade of bodily responses that not in your stomach when you're anxious, maybe your heart rate increases when you're excited or angry.
So the racing heart, sweaty palms.
All those things. Learning to recognize these physical cues can be a really effective way to deepen your emotional understanding. It's almost like your body is providing an early warning system for your feelings.
So those physical signals are like little breadcrumbs, kind of leading me to understand what I'm actually feeling underneath.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. Another key part of self-awareness is identifying your buttons.
Find buttons.
Yeah, those specific individuals or situations or maybe even environments that consistently trigger strong emotional reactions in you.
Ah, okay. The things that set you off.
Exactly.
Okay.
Understanding these personal triggers is absolutely crucial for learning to manage those reactions more effectively when they happen.
Right.
Our sources suggest a practice. They call it watching yourself like a hawk.
Like a hawk.
Yeah, observing your reactions with a degree of detachment, almost as if you were an objective third party looking in. This can help you spot patterns and biases you might otherwise just miss. For example, do you consistently get defensive when a certain type of feedback is given?
That sounds a bit like stepping outside of yourself to get a clearer view. It sounds hard, though.
It can be, but it's incredibly valuable. Another tool is keeping an emotional journal.
A journal, like writing down feelings.
Yeah, regularly tracking your emotions, the specific situations that triggered them, maybe noting those physical sensations we talked about, and how you behaved in response.
Okay.
Doing this over time can reveal patterns and connections you might not consciously recognize otherwise. The biggest hurdle, as our sources point out, is trying to maintain genuine objectivity in your reflections. It's easy to rationalize or downplay things.
Yeah, I can see how it would be tempting to paint yourself in the best possible light or just dismiss things.
It is. And it's also important not to be misled by your current mood, whether it's exceptionally good or particularly bad.
Oh, how so?
Both extremes can significantly distort your perspective. They can potentially lead to decisions or actions you might later regret.
Ah.
The key is to acknowledge the mood. Okay, I'm feeling really down today, or I'm on top of the world, but don't let it completely dictate your choices in that moment.
So if I'm feeling incredibly optimistic, maybe I should, pump the brakes a bit on making huge, impulsive decisions.
That's generally the idea, yeah. Take a pause. Our sources also emphasize the value of visiting your values.
Visiting your values, what does that mean?
Regularly reflecting on your core beliefs, what's truly important to you, and checking if your actions are actually aligning with them.
Okay.
Sometimes the daily grind, the demands of work or life can make us lose sight of what truly matters to us. This can lead to a subtle but persistent sense of unease or dissatisfaction.
Because you're not living true to yourself.
Exactly. That discomfort arises because acting against your values creates this internal conflict, even if you're not consciously aware of it at the time.
That makes a lot of sense. Feeling out of sync with your own principles would definitely create some internal friction.
Right. Then there's the practice of checking yourself.
To get myself.
Being consciously aware of your demeanor, your body language, the signals you're projecting outwardly, your current mood inevitably influences how you present yourself to the world.
How you come across.
Yeah. And understanding this connection can help you manage those external signals more intentionally if you need to.
Okay.
You can also actively try to spot your emotions in books, movies, and music.
Really? How does that help?
Well, engaging with these forms of storytelling can often act as a powerful mirror. It can help you recognize, understand, and maybe even articulate your own feelings by seeing them reflected in the experiences of characters or expressed in music.
That's a really interesting idea, using art as a way to understand your own inner landscape.
Precisely. And crucially, our sources really stress the importance of seeking feedback.
From other people.
Yes, from trusted individuals, could be friends, colleagues, mentors. They can offer invaluable external perspectives on how you come across and where your blind spots might be.
Things you just can't see yourself.
Exactly. And when seeking feedback, try to ask for specific examples. Look for recurring patterns in what you hear. Self-awareness truly blossoms from this combination of internal reflection and external insights.
Both sides of the coin.
Right. And finally, under self-awareness, it's about getting to know yourself under stress. Learning to recognize your personal early warning signs, both physical and emotional, and paying attention to those signals before things escalate too far.
So self-awareness is really this ongoing process, isn't it? Tuning into all these different facets, feelings, physical reactions, values, how others see us.
Exactly. It's a continuous journey. And with that solid foundation of self-awareness, we can then move on to the crucial skill of self-management.
Okay, self-management.
Yeah.
Building on that awareness, what's the core idea here?
Well, self-management builds directly on that self-awareness. You can only make conscious choices about how to respond to an emotion once you've actually recognized it.
Makes sense. You have to know it's there first.
Exactly. Our sources highlight the incredible plasticity of the brain, its remarkable ability to form new connections and pathways when you actively practice these EQ skills.
Brain plasticity.
Yeah. This practice strengthens the communication bridge between the more rational, thinking parts of your brain and the more emotional centers.
So you're actually changing your brain.
You are. Think of it like consistently practicing a musical instrument. With repetition, the movements become more fluid, more natural, almost automatic.
Okay.
Developing your EQ works similarly. You're making more effective emotional responses more habitual over time. And the research shows these positive changes in EQ can be really lasting, even years after someone starts actively working on these skills.
So it's not just about momentary willpower. It's about actually kind of rewiring your brain over time.
Precisely. That's a great way to put it. One simple yet really powerful self-management strategy our sources mention is just to breathe,
Just breathing.
consciously taking slow, deep breaths. This simple act engages your parasympathetic nervous system, which helps calm your body down.
Right.
And it also helps activate the more rational parts of your brain, giving you a moment of pause in an emotionally charged situation.
I can definitely see how a few deliberate breaths could create a little space to think more clearly instead of just reacting.
Absolutely. Another valuable technique is to create an emotion versus reason list.
Emotion versus reason. How does that work?
When you're facing a challenging situation, you literally write down, maybe in 2 columns, what your emotions are strongly urging you to do.
Okay, the gut reaction.
Yeah. And then in the other column, what your more rational, logical thinking is suggesting. This visual representation can help you clearly see where your emotions might be, perhaps, clouding your judgment, and maybe where your reason might be overlooking important emotional factors. It's about bringing both perspectives into a conscious dialogue.
It's like putting the impulsive part and the thoughtful part of my brain side by side to have a proper conversation.
Exactly. Our sources also suggest making your goals public as a surprisingly effective motivator for self-management.
Telling people what you're trying to do, why does that help?
Well, when you share your intentions with others, maybe improving your patience or handling feedback better, the external expectation can provide a significant boost to your commitment and self-discipline. You feel more accountable.
Ah, the accountability factor.
Yeah. And of course, there's the time-tested strategy of count to 10.
The classic.
Simple, but often really effective. Just creating that brief pause allows your rational brain to catch up when you feel emotionally overwhelmed or hijacked.
Sometimes those really simple techniques are the most powerful, aren't they?
They really are. Another helpful approach is simply to sleep on it.
Let time do its work.
Exactly. Giving yourself time and distance from a situation, especially when strong emotions are involved, can often transform your perspective and provide much-needed clarity before you react or make a decision.
Instead of firing off that angry email immediately.
Precisely. You can also proactively talk to a skilled self-manager.
Find someone who's good at this.
Yeah, seek out individuals you admire for their emotional composure and resilience. Ask them how they handle things. Learn from their strategies and insights. Think of it as finding a mentor in emotional regulation.
That's like seeking out someone who's already navigating the emotional landscape effectively and learning from them.
Oh, exactly. And don't underestimate the power of a simple smile and laugh more.
Really? Just smiling.
Interestingly, yeah. Research suggests that the physical act of smiling, even if it feels forced initially, can actually send signals to your brain that you're feeling happier.
Fake it till you make it, kinda.
A little bit, yeah. It can even influence your perception of humor, making things seem funnier.
So there's a bit of a feedback loop between our physical expressions and our actual emotions.
There seems to be. Our sources also recommend setting aside some time in your day for problem solving.
Being proactive.
Exactly. By proactively dedicating time to address potential issues or simmering conflicts, you can prevent them from escalating and triggering strong emotional responses later on when you're maybe less prepared.
Dealing with things before they blow up.
Right. And it's absolutely crucial to take control of your self-talk.
That inner voice.
Yeah, the internal dialogue you have with yourself has a profound impact on your feelings. Learning to manage that inner voice, challenging negative thoughts, questioning assumptions, cultivating a more positive and realistic internal narrative can significantly regulate your emotional flow.
And we talk to ourselves a lot, don't we?
Constantly. Consider this. The average person has around 50,000 thoughts per day.
50,000, wow.
So directing even a fraction of that internal chatter in a more constructive way is a powerful aspect of self-management.
It's no wonder our self-talk has such a big impact then.
It really does. Another effective technique is to visualize yourself succeeding.
Mental rehearsal.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It can help create neural pathways for desired behaviors because the brain often struggles to distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real ones. So picturing yourself handling a situation calmly can actually help you do it.
Interesting. What about basics, like sleep?
Hugely important. Don't overlook the fundamental importance of cleaning up your sleep hygiene.
Sleep hygiene. You mean like habits around sleep?
Exactly. Specific steps like getting some morning sunlight, avoiding screens before bed, using your bed only for sleep, limiting caffeine intake, especially later in the day.
The caffeine cutoff time.
Yeah, quality sleep is absolutely essential for effective self-management. And remember, caffeine has a surprisingly long half-life, about 6 hours.
It's hours. So that 4 p.m. coffee could still be affecting my sleep at 10 p.m.
Easily. It disrupts your ability to get restorative sleep, which impacts your mood and self-control the next day.
So those late-night phone checks and afternoon coffees are likely sabotaging my ability to manage my emotions the next day.
Very likely, yes. Our sources also encourage you to focus your attention on your freedoms rather than your limitations.
Focus on what you can control.
Exactly. Even in situations where you feel constrained or overwhelmed, you almost always have a choice in how you respond emotionally and behaviorally.
Okay.
Think of Captain Sullenberger landing the plane on the Hudson. In that incredibly high-pressure situation, he had to stay synchronized, as the sources put it.
Stay synchronized.
Meaning he focused intently on the immediate task at hand, flying the plane, assessing options rather than being overwhelmed by fear or the potential consequences. He focused on his agency in the moment.
That's an incredible example of focusing on what you can control in the face of overwhelming circumstances.
Absolutely. You could also benefit from speaking to someone who is not emotionally invested in your problem.
Getting an outside perspective.
Yeah. This provides a fresh, objective viewpoint and can help you see options or angles you might have overlooked because you're too close to it. But choose your confidant wisely.
How so?
Avoid those who have a vested interest in the situation, or maybe those who will just simply agree with you and validate your feelings without offering any new insights or challenges.
Right, you need objectivity, not just an echo chamber.
Precisely. And try to cultivate an attitude where you learn a valuable lesson from everyone you encounter.
Even difficult people.
Especially difficult people sometimes. Even in challenging interactions like receiving criticism or facing disagreement, try to extract the kernel of truth or the opportunity for growth, even if the delivery isn't ideal.
It's about looking for the learning opportunity, even when it's disguised as something unpleasant.
Exactly. Finally, remember to put a mental recharge into your schedule.
Taking breaks.
Yes, actively schedule time for activities you find relaxing and enjoyable. This includes exercise, which we know benefits both physical and mental well-being by releasing helpful brain chemicals.
Making time for yourself.
And cultivate a mindset of acceptance by reminding yourself to accept that change is just around the corner. Life is unpredictable. This helps you prepare mentally for the inevitable shifts and prevents being completely overwhelmed by strong negative emotions when unexpected things happen.
Building resilience by anticipating change.
In a way, yes. It's about readiness.
That's a really comprehensive set of tools for navigating our own emotional responses. Really practical stuff. Now, let's shift our focus outward a bit. to understanding others' social awareness. What should we be paying attention to here?
Okay, social awareness. This is fundamentally about your capacity to recognize and understand the emotions being experienced by other people.
Reading the room, kind of?
Reading the room, reading individuals, yeah. It involves keenly observing a whole range of cues, the body language, their facial expressions, tone of
And
voice.
nonverbal stuff?
A lot of it is nonverbal, yes.
Mm.
And also being attuned to the underlying thoughts and feelings they might be conveying, even if they're not explicitly stating them.
Reading between the lines.
Exactly. Our sources strongly recommend that you practice listening more intently.
Deeper listening.
Yeah, giving your complete focus during conversations, minimizing distractions, put the phone away, and truly concentrating on what the other person is saying, both verbally and non-verbally.
It's about moving beyond just hearing the words to really absorbing the full message, the feeling behind it, too.
Precisely. And following on from that, it's absolutely crucial to watch body language.
What specifically should we look for?
Paying close attention to all the nonverbal signals, really from head to toe. But with a particular focus on eye contact, micro-expressions on the face, posture, gestures. The research of Dr. Paul Ekman is invaluable here on universal facial expressions.
Right.
You can gain a remarkable amount of insight into someone's true emotional state by carefully observing these nonverbal cues. They often tell a different story than the words.
So learning to decode those nonverbal signals can give me a much richer understanding of what's really going on with someone underneath the surface.
Absolutely. It adds a whole other layer. Our sources also highlight the importance of mastering the art of timing.
Timing in conversation.
Yeah, knowing when to ask certain questions or broach specific topics. Being sensitive to the other person's current emotional state is key. Asking a really difficult or demanding question when someone is clearly stressed or upset or rushed is probably unlikely to yield a positive outcome, is it?
No, definitely not. Timing really is crucial for effective communication, isn't it?
It is, and having a few back pocket questions ready can be a useful strategy.
Back pocket questions. For what?
For navigating those potentially awkward silences in conversations, or just to show genuine interest in the other person's thoughts and feelings when the conversation lulls.
Ah, okay. Like, what are you passionate about outside of work? Or something.
Exactly. Open-ended, fairly neutral questions. It's generally best to stick to those kinds of topics and maybe steer clear of potentially divisive subjects like politics or religion, especially in initial interactions or professional settings.
Good tip.
Interestingly, our sources advise against constantly taking notes at meetings.
Really? I thought note-taking was good.
It can be, but if you're constantly looking down and writing, it can significantly detract from your ability to observe the critical nonverbal cues and the shifts in the overall dynamics of the room. You miss the interactions, the subtle reactions.
Ah, okay. My focus would be on the page rather than the people and their reactions.
I see. Exactly. So prioritize active observation in the moment, maybe jot down key points later. You can also proactively plan ahead for social gatherings.
Like prepping for a party.
Sort of. Thinking about your objectives for the event, who do you want to connect with, what do you hope to achieve, and maybe anticipating potential interactions. This can help reduce anxiety and allow you to be more present and attuned to others in the moment because you've done some prep work.
Reduces the stress of walking in cold.
Right. And remember to clear away the clutter.
A mental clutter.
Yeah, consciously silencing your internal thoughts, worrying about your next point, judging what they're saying, and focusing your full attention on the person speaking. Resist that urge to formulate your response while they're still talking.
That's a hard one.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's key to true listening. Even small physical gestures like slightly leaning in can signal your engagement and attentiveness.
It's all about being fully present and undistracted in the interaction.
Absolutely. Our sources encourage you to generally try and live in the moment. Cultivating a habit of being present wherever you are helps you better observe the people around you and fully experience life as it unfolds, rather than being mentally checked out.
Mindfulness, essentially.
Very much related, yes. You can also consider taking what the sources call a short course in feedback within your professional environment.
Of course.
Not necessarily a formal course, but actively seeking out diverse perspectives on your own behavior and communication style. asking colleagues how you come across. This helps you gain a clearer understanding of how you are perceived by others.
So it's conducting my own informal 360-degree feedback sessions to get a sense of my social impact.
In a way, yes, it takes courage, but it's very insightful. And you can even watch EQ at the movies.
Using films again.
Yeah. Pay attention to how characters interact, how they manage their relationships, navigate conflicts. It can be a low-pressure way to practice recognizing social cues and emotional dynamics without your own emotions being directly involved. You're just observing.
That's actually a fun and insightful way to develop social awareness. I like that.
It is. And of course, underpinning all of this is practicing the art of listening. It's absolutely fundamental, yet it's a skill that is often underestimated or poorly executed. Make a conscious effort to be fully present and attentive when others are speaking.
Really listen. Don't just wait to talk.
Exactly. You can also intentionally go people watching.
People watching, like in a cafe.
Yeah, in public spaces, parks, cafes, airports. Observe body language, interactions, nonverbal cues in a safe, non-interactive setting. It's like being a social scientist in the field, just noticing patterns.
Observing without judgment, just taking in the nonverbal information. Sharpening your observation skills.
Precisely. It's also vital to understand the rules of the culture game.
Culture game.
Recognizing that social interactions are significantly influenced by cultural norms, could be ethnic culture, family culture, even the specific culture within a business or team.
Right. Different contexts have different unwritten rules.
Exactly. And you need to adapt your behavior accordingly. Remember the golden rule, treat others as you want to be treated. Well, there's an important EQ caveat. Treat others how they want to be treated.
Ah, that's a critical distinction, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially in our increasingly interconnected and diverse world. What works for me might not work for them.
Absolutely. It requires empathy and an observation. You can also gently test for accuracy.
Check your assumptions.
Yeah, if appropriate, check your perceptions of others' emotions. Something like, you seem a bit concerned about this, is that right? It helps refine your social awareness and shows you're paying attention.
But tactfully, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely tactfully. And time to step into their shoes. Consciously attempt to understand situations from the other person's perspective. What might they be feeling? Why might they be reacting this way? This builds deeper empathy and improves communication.
Seeing it from their side.
Yes. Seek the whole picture when getting feedback about yourself. Gather input from a range of sources, people who are generally supportive, fans, and maybe those who offer more critical perspectives, critics. This gives you more comprehensive understanding of how you're perceived.
Avoid just listening to the people who tell you what you want to hear.
Exactly. And finally, learn to catch the mood of the room. Develop the ability to pick up on the collective emotional atmosphere, the overall vibe. This can be intuitive, but it's also about observing group dynamics, body language clusters, energy levels.
That sounds like a subtle skill.
It can be. If you find this challenging, the sources suggest maybe spending time with someone you know who is highly socially aware. They can act as a sort of guide, subtly pointing out cues you might be missing.
Learning by observing an expert observer.
Precisely.
So social awareness is really about becoming a highly attuned observer of human behavior, understanding the often unspoken language of emotions and social dynamics. It's a lot about paying attention outwardly.
Exactly, you've got it. And that naturally leads us to the fourth and final core EQ skill, relationship management.
Okay, relationship management. This sounds like where it all comes together. How do we leverage our understanding of ourselves and our understanding of others to actually build and maintain strong, healthy connections?
Well, relationship management, as you say, it builds upon that foundation of self-awareness, self-management, and social awareness.
Yeah.
You need the other three to do this one well.
Right.
It's about consciously using these skills to foster positive and lasting relationships, navigate conflicts constructively, influence others effectively, basically making interactions work well over the long term.
Okay, so what are some key strategies here?
Our sources emphasize the importance of being consistently open and curious in your interactions.
Open and curious.
Yeah, demonstrating genuine interest in other people. Asking thoughtful, open-ended questions to understand their perspectives, their experiences, their feelings, and doing so without a judgmental tone.
It's about approaching interactions with a genuine desire to connect and understand, not just to talk or win a point.
Precisely. You should also actively work to enhance your natural communication style.
My style. How?
By first identifying its strengths, but also its potential weaknesses or downsides. Maybe you're very direct, but sometimes that comes across as blunt. Or perhaps you're very diplomatic, but sometimes avoid necessary conflict.
Okay. Seeing both sides of my style.
Yeah, and then making conscious adjustments to improve your effectiveness in different situations. Seeking feedback specifically on how your communication style lands with others can be incredibly valuable here.
How it's received, not just how I intend it.
Exactly. Which leads nicely to the next point. It's vital to avoid giving mixed signals.
Mixed signals.
Yeah.
Like saying one thing but your face says another.
Precisely. Ensuring that your verbal communication, the words you use, is congruent with your tone of voice and your body language. Remember, people tend to instinctively trust the nonverbal cues, what they see, much more than the spoken words when there's a mismatch.
Consistency and clarity in communication are key to building trust then.
Absolutely. Trust is fundamental. And don't underestimate the significant impact of remembering the little things that pack a punch.
The little things.
Simple acts of courtesy, saying please, thank you, I'm sorry, when appropriate. Using people's names. These seemingly small things can have a surprisingly powerful positive effect on both personal and professional relationships. They show respect.
Basic manners go a long way.
They really do. It's also crucial to learn how to take feedback well.
We mentioned seeking feedback earlier, but this is about receiving it gracefully.
Yes. Viewing it not as criticism, but as a valuable gift, an opportunity for growth. Actively listening, asking clarifying questions, maybe thanking the person, and demonstrating that you've heard it by following up with action plans where appropriate.
Even when the feedback is difficult or maybe feels unfair.
Especially then. Giving yourself some time to process the feedback before reacting defensively can also be really helpful. Don't just dismiss it.
Okay. Even when feedback is difficult to hear, seeing it as a potential catalyst for improvement.
It is. And building strong relationships fundamentally requires you to build trust. This isn't instant. It happens through consistent, open communication, reliability, doing what you say you'll do, and demonstrating integrity over time.
Takes time to build, easy to lose.
Exactly. Trust takes time and effort to establish and, unfortunately, can be eroded very quickly by inconsistent behavior or broken promises. Having an open-door policy can help build trust.
Literally leaving your office door open.
It can be literal or figurative in a remote world, making it known you're accessible and willing to listen. This fosters upward communication and shows you're approachable. However, it's essential to clearly communicate what that policy means and then consistently adhere to it. Don't say you have an open door if you're never actually available.
Right. Making yourself genuinely approachable and demonstrating that you're willing to listen can really strengthen connections.
Absolutely. Our sources also discuss learning to only get mad on purpose.
Get mad
Oh.
on purpose.
Yeah.
That sounds counterintuitive.
It means using anger strategically and appropriately, not impulsively. Sometimes expressing frustration or anger in a controlled way is necessary to communicate strong feelings, signal boundaries, or motivate action.
So it's about choosing to express anger constructively, not just reacting.
Exactly. It's about channeling the energy of anger effectively rather than letting it control you and potentially damage relationships. And related to handling difficult emotions, it's important to don't avoid the inevitable.
Don't avoid conflict.
Or difficult conversations, or acknowledging other people's difficult emotions, proactively addressing tough situations and acknowledging the feelings of others, rather than trying to suppress, ignore, or sweep them under the rug, is usually much more effective in the long run.
Avoiding tough conversations rarely makes them go away. It often just prolongs the issue or makes it worse.
Exactly. Make a conscious effort to acknowledge the other person's feelings. This goes back to active listening. Hear their perspective and then summarize it back to them. So it sounds like you're feeling frustrated because to ensure understanding and show you've truly heard them.
Validation. Showing you get it.
Yes. You can also compliment the person's emotions or situation.
Compliment them. How?
It means adapting your response to align with their emotional state to provide appropriate support. If someone is excited, share their enthusiasm. If they're sad, offer quiet empathy. If they're stressed, offer help or understanding. Match your response to their need.
Tuning your reaction to theirs.
Right. And remember, simply, when you care, show it. Small, genuine gestures that demonstrate your consideration, your empathy, your support can have a surprisingly significant impact. A quick check-in message, bring someone a coffee, offering help.
Those small acts of kindness and empathy really do make a difference.
They really can. It's also important, especially in leadership roles, but really in any interaction, to explain your decisions. Don't just make them.
Give the why.
Exactly. Providing transparency and context behind your choices helps people feel valued, trusted, and respected, even if they don't fully agree with the decision itself. It builds buy-in.
Makes people feel included.
Yes. And when you need to give feedback, strive to make it both direct and constructive. Be clear about the issue, but also offer specific, actionable suggestions for improvement. And always be mindful of your tone and delivery focus on the behavior, not the person.
Clear, actionable feedback is far more effective than vague criticisms or personal attacks.
Absolutely. Always strive to align your intention with your impact.
Checking how things actually landed.
Yes. Be consciously aware of how your words and actions are actually being received by others, not just how you intended them. And make adjustments as needed to ensure your impact aligns with your positive intentions. Take a moment after interactions sometimes to reflect. Did that go as I hoped? If not, why not?
Learning from those mismatches between intent and impact.
Right. You can also learn to offer a fix-it statement during a broken conversation.
A fix-it statement?
Yeah.
What's that?
When a conversation gets tense or breaks down, you step back from blame and focus on repairing the communication. Use neutral, common ground statements like, okay, it seems like we're misunderstanding each other. Can we pause and try to clarify? Or how can we get back on track here? It de-escalates and refocuses.
That's a great way to de-escalate tension and try to salvage the conversation.
It is. And finally, the sources offer guidance on how to tackle a tough conversation effectively overall. This involves planning your approach beforehand, genuinely seeking to understand the other person's perspective, resisting that immediate urge to rebut or defend, acknowledging their feelings explicitly, focusing on moving the conversation forward constructively towards a solution, and crucially, following up afterward to ensure resolution and maintain the relationship.
Wow. So relationship management is really about being incredibly intentional in how we connect with others, building trust through consistent, thoughtful actions, and skillfully navigating the inevitable complexities of human interaction using all that awareness we've built up.
Exactly. It's where all the EQ skills come together in practice. Now, maybe we can briefly consider the broader trends in emotional intelligence that our sources touched on.
Yeah, what have our sources indicated about how our collective EQ has maybe evolved over time? Has it changed?
Well, our sources note that the initial widespread availability of tools like the emotional intelligence appraisal back in the day led to a significant increase in awareness and interest in EQ. People started talking about it more.
Okay.
However, there was an unexpected dip, apparently, in collective emotional intelligence scores around 2008.
2008. Why then?
Researchers linked it to the global economic recession and the accompanying rise in stress levels across the population.
Ah, stress impacts EQ.
Massively. Chronic stress depletes our cognitive resources, the mental energy needed for self-regulation. This makes it much more challenging to manage our emotions effectively, leading to a greater tendency for emotions rather than reason to dictate our behavior.
That makes perfect sense. When you're under significant pressure, it's just harder to think clearly and manage your emotional responses effectively.
Yeah.
Your fuse gets shorter.
Precisely. There is also the ongoing impact of demographic shifts, like the retirement of the baby boomer generation from leadership roles and the potential leadership vacuum this creates.
Okay.
There are ongoing discussions and some concerns noted in the sources about whether subsequent generations, like Gen Y or millennials, possess the same levels of developed self-management skills needed for those roles.
So the concern is a potential skills gap in EQ.
Well, the sources suggest that while younger generations often excel in technical domains, actively cultivating their EQ, particularly self-management and relationship management skills, will be crucial for effective leadership as they step up. It's something that needs conscious development.
So it's not just about technical skills anymore. Emotional intelligence is becoming increasingly recognized as a vital component of effective leadership across generations.
Absolutely, it's seen as essential. Our sources also briefly touch upon the rise of China as a global economic power and the potential role that EQ may have played in that transition.
Really? How so?
Research cited from back in 2005 indicated a notably high level of emotional intelligence among top Chinese executives at that time, suggesting it might have contributed to their effectiveness during a period of rapid change.
It's fascinating to consider how emotional intelligence can even be a factor on a global economic scale like that.
It is. The impact is wide-ranging. Our sources conclude with a really insightful analogy, I thought.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Developing your EQ is akin to learning how to fish. It equips you with a lifelong skill for success in navigating challenges.
Oh,
Unlike simply being given a fish, which you could maybe equate to having a high IQ, a static asset, or just being told how to acquire one, EQ is the skill of getting the fish again and again.
I like that. IQ is the fish. EQ is knowing how to fish.
Pretty much. Those who understand and can effectively manage their emotions and understand and navigate others are just far better positioned to navigate life's complexities and achieve their goals, whatever they may be.
So ultimately, investing time and effort in developing our emotional intelligence is really a long-term investment in our overall success, our relationships, and our well-being.
Exactly. It's a fundamental skill set, and the good news is, as we've discussed, it can be honed and improved through conscious effort and consistent application of the kinds of strategies we've explored today.
Right. So for you, who are our listener, maybe take a moment now to reflect on the key insights we've dug into in this deep dive. Which of these four core EQ skills, self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, or relationship management, which one resonates most strongly with you right now?
Hmm.
Which one might you want to prioritize for development in your own life? Perhaps you can even revisit the strategies we discussed under each skill and identify just one or two actionable steps you could realistically start implementing, maybe even today or this week.
And here's maybe a final thought for you to consider, building on that stress point. Given the significant impact that stress does have on our emotional intelligence, what is one small but consistent change you could realistically incorporate into your daily routine that could help you better manage your stress levels?
Mm,
Because doing that could, in turn, strengthen both your emotional resilience and your relationships with others. What's one small step you could take?
that's a great question to ponder. And remember, delving deeper into the specific strategies and maybe even some self-assessment tools that are often mentioned alongside this kind of material can offer even more personalized insights into your ongoing journey of EQ development. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.